family or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live, this is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining me. It is the Monday edition of Point of View, and as we mentioned on Friday, Penna Dexter is going to be with me. Going to be talking about a couple of issues which all kind of fit into the care and topic of backlash, because there are some very interesting individuals right now upset about where things are moving on everything from abortion to transgenderism. But first of all, Penna Dexter, we announced on Friday you were going to be with us on Monday, and thank you for joining us.
Well, Kerby, it's great to be with you, and it is kind of, well, in a sense disturbing, but in a sense funny to see the backlash that you were just talking about, because the new administration that took power, and just the House and the Senate being in Republican hands, or in the hands of people that care about some of those issues that Republicans support, it's just making people upset, and some of their reactions are kind of funny.
I just mentioned that Penna's commentary comes out, of course, on the end of the weekend. We sent it to you on Saturday. We've posted it again on our website. But Penna, let's set the scene, because in the United Nations, every year they have this Commission on the Status of Women. But this declaration, though it did have some language maybe friendly to gender identity, references to sexual health, reproductive rights, sexual education were left out. And that led to quite a backlash, didn't it?
Well, it did. This Commission on the Status of Women at the UN, it meets every year. It just wrapped up on Friday. And I get this email every Friday from CFAM, the Center on Family and Human Rights, and they're UN watchers, especially on abortion and the family issues. And their PhD writer there, Rebecca Oas, says that at the Commission on the Status of Women, which we could call CSW, it's sort of a mood shift right now. They want, of course, at the UN, they're always wanting reproductive rights. They're wanting transgender ideology implemented. And it really upsets the leftist globalists when they are not able to always enact that. And that's really what's happening right now.
Well, again, we're going to, in about the first half hour here, talk about this backlash, then a transgender backlash, which is actually our second article on the website as well. But if people have been paying attention, we've been over the last couple of weeks talking about the fact that this is our Truth Team week. And whenever we do Truth Team, we always like to bring in our friend Collin Lambert, and it is great to see you face to face.
It's great to be here. Looking forward to Truth Team week this week, and an opportunity for folks to get involved with the work of Point of View.
And again, that number, we'll just encourage you to write it down, 800-347-5151. Of course, the website is pointofview.net. But we have all sorts of ways in which people can participate, and some wonderful gifts at every single level this time.
We do. Of course, you can give a one-time gift, and we'd love to see that. But if you could give monthly, that is so helpful to the ministry. And one of the ways you can do that is at a $30 a month or more level. At that $30 a month or more level, you're going to get an Outlook magazine, which has wonderful topics every month, and some of those monthly booklets that you hear Kerby talking about very often on different topics. That's your gift for $30 a month or more. If you'd like to give it the $50 a month or more level, you'll get all of those, plus a set of wood Point of View coasters, which we have here in studio. And at the $100 or more per month level, the Point of View Igloo Seadrift Snap Down Cooler. It holds 36 cans, and it's insulated, and it's beautiful. And we'd like to make that available to you at the $100 a month or more level. You get them all if you give it that higher level, and that makes a wonderful gift. However you'd like to give, though, Kerby, that's the key. Be a part of Truth Team Week this week at 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
I might just mention, too, if you go to the website, you will see an anchored to Truth. You can click through there and see the picture. Or right now, maybe Steve can actually put a camera on the igloo as well as the coaster set. That would be an opportunity for you to see some of that as well. And we'll show that even as we're talking about some of that. And Penna, I thought I'd come back to you because in some respects, one of the things we like to do here at Point of View is bring news and information you'll hear nowhere else. And except for your commentary, which we posted and have posted again here, I haven't seen any other news outlets even talking about the remarkable change in attitude there in the United Nations.
Well, I haven't either, and so that's why I wanted to do so. But, when there's an administration and other houses of Congress that are more amenable to family values, pro-life, and pro-family type values, and you see them acting in favor of our values, I don't think we can rest. We should not rest. We should actually encourage them and just flow the information into the policymakers. And that's why it's so important to have an outlet like Point of View that supplies that information to listeners, and then people can go on and speak to those, legislators that represent them. And this is such a moment of opportunity to do good that, we at Point of View consider it probably almost more important than the times when things are going so badly. But when things are going well, we can't let it just grow stale and atrophy. We've got to keep things moving forward.
Again, kind of good news that certainly no references to sexual health, reproductive rights, sexual education, but also, of course, we have a new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who rejoined the Geneva Consensus Declaration you talk about. There's no international right to abortion. We're going to come back to that topic on Wednesday when we get into a kind of a deep dive on this issue of chemical abortion, which is the booklet that Collin was talking about just a minute ago. And you've had a chance to read some of those booklets because one of the benefits, I think, of taking this information, that particular article written by Liberty McCarter, I write many of the others, are really to take all this information, try to put it in a format that you can read in about 10 minutes.
These booklets are fabulous, and you have them on just about every topic of the day, and I love that because it's a primer on what you need to know about that topic, and the key part, how it ties into Scripture. What does the Bible say about this topic? How should we think about this? How should we interact with it as followers of Christ? So helpful. And if you're giving it that $30 a month or more level, that is going to be one of the gifts to you at 800-347-5151.
When we come back, here I'm holding up right now, those of you watching online, the little booklet on a biblical point of view on transgenderism, because you'll see that our next article also talks about a backlash about some common sense breaking out in that whole issue as well. But just before we take a break, I just thought, Collin, for a minute, one of the things we wanted to talk about today is anybody that maybe has been listening for some time to Point of View, maybe a first-time donor. That's what we're looking for today, isn't it?
We would love to see some new givers today. If you've only been listening a short amount of time or you've been listening for decades and you've never given to Point of View, this would be a great time to do that. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net. We also have a wonderful bookmark that we're going to make available to everybody who gives a gift of any amount. That's just our way of saying thank you. So again, if you've never given before, take this opportunity, give for the very first time, and help out the folks at Point of View. The ministry will continue as you give us the funds to be able to continue to do it. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net.
When we come back, we're going to have a chance to hear from a number of other individuals that have been encouraging you to support this ministry, but most importantly, we're going to have a chance to continue our conversation with Penna Dexter. All that coming up right after this. 1-800-347-5151.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
The U.S. has two debt problems, one long-term and one short-term. The first problem is a national debt of $36 trillion that has been increasing. Also concerning is the fact that the rate of indebtedness is also increasing. The second problem is the current need to refinance so many federal treasuries this year. These T-bills are how we finance our debt. and $7 trillion of debt needs to be financed, along with $2 trillion in a deficit this year. That means $9 trillion of current debt needs to be purchased. Who's going to buy our debt? Not China, probably not Japan or any country in Europe. We need something to entice countries and companies to buy our debt. Bitcoin might be the answer. At the Bitcoin Policy Institute, Michael Saylor ran models to show how investing in the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve would build assets to offset the growing national debt. I mentioned that in a previous commentary. But another presentation proposed a Bitcoin bond that would increase an investor's interest in buying bonds. Most of the purchase would go to the government, but a portion of the purchase would go to buy Bitcoin. At maturity, the holder would receive all of the upside price appreciation of Bitcoin to a certain level. After that, the additional appreciation would be split by half with the government. The benefit to the holder would be an investment that is likely going to return a better percentage than normal. The benefit to the government would be the purchasing of Bitcoin for the strategic reserve that is budget neutral, as required by the executive order signed by President Trump earlier this month. Bitcoin might be a way to pay off our national debt in the future, but also attract needed investors to finance our debt today. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
Go deeper on topics like you just heard by visiting pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Point of View, keeping you anchored to truth.
Well, this is a David and Goliath situation, Kerby. Your program is one of the few that allows alternative points of view on things like COVID-19, on election integrity, on all the sexual issues. You allow the truth to get out there. The legacy media, and that would be the networks, the New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, places like that, they don't permit alternative points of view, and they've gotten worse over the years. So I think the importance of point of view has gotten to the point where you're vital. You're vital to the spread of useful information. You're like the samizdat. That was the underground press in the Soviet Union. I mean, I say that having been an editor at the LA Times and many other papers, that they are not merely liberal anymore. They are hard left. They suppress information, and point of view allows that information to get out.
Point of View, anchored to truth.
Again, Robert Knight, of course, you see his column in the Washington Times, a number of other places. His column today is about judges who would be kings, and we'll probably come back to some of that a little bit later, because our third article, which we'll talk about in just a minute with Penna Dexter, is that. But we're going to get to the one on transgenderism, but I understand, as we're already beginning Truth Team Week, that we already have some gifts.
We do, and actually 2 women, both named Sandra, both from Georgia. I don't know what it is about Sandras in Georgia, but they're on the spot today. Sandra in Georgia with a gift of $1,200. We thank you for that. And another Sandra in Georgia with a $100 gift. We're grateful for that. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net.
You don't have to be in Georgia. You don't have to be named Sandra to give.
That's right, exactly.
But that is kind of intriguing there. Penna Dexter, I mentioned many times before, you've grown up in California, so have I. And I've noticed that the current governor of the state of California has kind of changed his views on at least whether or not men should be actually in women's sports. And that leads to this article, our second article, The Left Doesn't Want to Moderate on Transgenderism. Tell us a little bit more about that, because already we're seeing that backlash as well, aren't we?
Well, yeah, let me say first, thanks to the two Sandras in Georgia. That's great. But on the whole, the transgender movement is losing its steam. We're starting to see that. I mean, there's, from the White House, there was a comment that, or actually an executive order that said there are two genders, male and female. And that's a big switch from what we've been seeing pushed. But Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California, and he came out and he said that it's deeply unfair for men to, compete in women's sports, which is just such an obvious proposition that it's hard to refute. But the leftists do refute things like that. They will not let go, even of things that make common sense, Kerby. So, we're seeing this interesting phenomena right now of the most liberal governor that most people have in their minds, Gavin Newsom, seen as a right-wing sellout.
When I read that, I said, you cannot make this up. One poll actually showed that left-leaning people in California, their favorability for him declined from 46% to 30%, and that's a really significant drop. But in this article, Penna, it's interesting. Jack Butler really went into this whole idea that if you look at this issue of transgenderism, there's money, science, and religion, and he sort of takes us through all three of those, because a lot of people say, what's the problem with obviously recognizing there are two genders? What's the problem with recognizing that men have very significant, usually athletic advantages over women? And yet some of that gets down to either money, science, or religion, doesn't it?
It does. And I guess you could start with money. Because the left has this financial network in place that pushes the transgender leftist agenda. And amazingly enough, one of the leaders of that is a transgender person from the Pritzker family. And J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, is one of those people that is pushing the trans agenda. Jennifer, actually born James, has bankrolled a lot of the organizations that push, men being in women's sports, and also the requirements that transgender women or men be allowed in women's bathrooms. So these things don't make common sense. So you've got the money behind it. You've also got the science being totally ignored, any good science being ignored, and certainly the religious sensibilities of people are important, and they're also being ignored as this agenda is pushed.
When that was what I thought was so interesting, because, again, you have groups that say we believe in the science, but then they disagree with the science. But then I thought it was interesting in the religion point here as well. If you can find at least somebody that calls themselves a Christian who believes in the transgender idea, then there's sort of this kind of postmodern idea that, well, some people have one opinion, some people have another opinion. And, of course, then that's a good way to kind of be a little bit less committed to biblical ideas. So whether it's money, science, or religion, it helps and explain a little bit more as to why you still see this stubborn unwillingness to even acknowledge common sense when it comes to the issue transgenderism.
Well, that's right. And, you see actually people in the name of Christianity and compassion and being nice to people implementing some of these agendas like the transgender agenda. And so, we have to be informed. We have to understand biblical truth and scientific truth. And then we have to make our positions clear. So that's where religion comes in, to give us the courage to stand for the strength of our convictions. And that's all there. But, they have to stay in balance. And I think the fact that the left will not listen to any reason, or what you just mentioned, common sense, they won't listen to it because their agenda is more important, and they're pushing that.
Colin, again, I'm holding up our booklet on transgenderism, and matter of fact, I have to do a part 2 now, just in light of this article, because I'm just thinking we started by talking about the governor in California, and of course we have radio stations in California. Then we're talking about the governor of Illinois, and Jennifer Ford, James Pritzker, and all the rest, and we're dealing with a whole set of ideas and issues, which quite frankly, until I read this article, I was unaware of, and that's the kind of thing we like to cover here on Point of View that you may hear nowhere else.
It is news that you rarely hear other places, and that's one of the great things about Point of View is you can count on accurate news. You can count on trustworthy information. You can also count on, again, that biblical perspective anchored to God's Word, which is so important. And those booklets are available to you with a gift of $30 a month or more, along with the Outlook magazine. That is a great way, a great level to start giving. If you're interested in giving for the very first time, we talked about first-time givers. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, pointofview.net. Let me just remind you quickly, we are a listener-supported broadcast. There's no grants coming from the government, no endowments providing funds, and there's going to be no Doge funds pulled back from Point of View because we're not receiving those dollars. But we do continue our work day in and day out because of your faithful giving at 800-347-5151.
One of the other things we do is we really try to document what we say. First of all, I just mentioned a piece by Penna Dexter, the U.S. and the UN. Mentioned the other piece, which we have already posted, and that one actually comes from Jack Butler, and I learned some things reading that I did not know. In just a few minutes, we're going to talk about another issue that I think is at least alluded to by the piece that we just heard a minute ago by Robert Knight. But there you can find those in the online resources. We, of course, have the booklets. And, of course, the Outlook magazine goes to anybody that's willing to give monthly, right?
Absolutely. That's your gift for any monthly gift. And we do have higher levels as well. If you can give $50 a month or more, that wood Point of View coaster set. And then we've got the wonderful Igloo snap-down cooler for $100 a month or more. However you'd like to give, we want to make it convenient. It can be a one-time gift, or you can stretch it out over 12 months. We'd love to see you participate in Truth Week this week, Truth Team Week. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net.
I'm well aware that a lot of people don't like to call during the program because they like to hear, and I'm really eager to hear some of the things Penna's going to say in just a few minutes. So this is a great opportunity right now as we go to a break to do so. I just saw somebody there wave at me from the room where they're supposed to be taking phone calls. The fact they can wave and they don't have a phone up to their ear tells me they're waiting for your phone call. And it's really very simple because all we need is some of the information from you and the pledge that you will give to us. It's a very simple and easy process. You don't have to have all the money right now.
Right.
Some of you might say, well, I want to give $50 a month for 12 months. That's great. Or $100 a month for 12 months. So again, you can go to, of course, the website, pointofview.net, or give us a call right now. That number is 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. We'll be right back.
Please do not miss this opportunity to make a difference in America. Join the Truth Team today. This week, our goal is to raise $150,000, something we've never done during Truth Team Week before. Our goal is ambitious because the need for biblical truth in this nation is dire. Few people have a biblical worldview anymore, but you can help change that by helping bring biblical truth to this nation. One of the best ways to support Point of View is by joining the team of supporters from around the nation who give monthly to keep truth on the air. Please, do not wait. Join the Truth Team today so we can restore a biblical worldview in America together. You can join now online at pointofview.net. or call us at 1-800-347-5151. A small investment makes a big difference. Pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this. You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Back once again, of course, it is our Truth Team week, and we're going to get back to some very important issues in just a minute. According to Bloomberg, 150 lawsuits have been filed so far against Donald Trump's administration, challenging his executive actions. Just last month alone, there were more injunctions issued against the Trump administration in just 1 month than in the entire 8 years under Barack Obama. So something is happening. happening. So I do want to get some comments from Penna Dexter about that as well. But also, we do encourage you to join with us. If you appreciate what we do here every day here on Point of View, I'd encourage you to give us a call at 800-347-5151 and also listen to what some of our listeners have said.
Point of View, keeping you anchored to truth.
Well, just every day, I just appreciate your program. I mean, it's just so awesome to see what's happening in the world, and you're just always right there, very specifically giving us what we need to hear, and I just so appreciate it. I just can't. And then I always want to buy the book. Of course, I want to buy every single book, every author that's interviewed, because they're always so fascinating, so interesting. So anyway, I just appreciate what you do.
Oh, let me tell you something. It rejuvenates me when I'm able to listen to your show and a really great radio station out here in 90.3 out of Jacksonville. They have all the good ones, and I can just listen to it all day long, and Kerby is one of them, you know? And I'm pleased and happy that you guys are here.
Point of View, anchored to truth.
We do hear that every once in a while. I have some people say, oh boy, I'm going to buy another book. But again, we buy the books. We appreciate the authors. We certainly encourage you as well. And Collin, that's one of the reasons why we come to people twice a year, just to say we are listener supported. There is no government support. We really want to cover as many types of issues as we possibly can from a biblical point of view. We recognize we're going to cover topics that probably aren't going to be covered by your pastor, even sometimes by your local radio station, because we think these are very important.
And I haven't mentioned it, but I think it's worth mentioning our goal for the week so folks know where we're headed to. $150,000 is the goal for Truth Team Week this week. It's going to take everybody doing something. And we just want to encourage you to be part of the Truth Team this week. If you've never done it before, first-time givers are welcomed with open arms. We would love to see you give. By the way, already almost $2,000 in today. So we're off to a great start, but everybody doing something is how we're going to get to that goal. Your gifts this week will help ensure that Point of View can continue in the months ahead. That's the importance of your gift. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, or pointofview.net.
Penna Dexter, let me come back to you, because one of the other articles we have here is President Trump issues a new order for the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and he knew, and I think we all knew around the table, that there would be legal challenges. I didn't expect 150 lawsuits so far and more injunctions against the Trump administration just in the month of February than all of the injunctions against Barack Obama in 8 years. So obviously there's a need for the president and for the Attorney General to begin to address this issue, as well as perhaps the Supreme Court. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, this article says more than 14 injunctions against the Trump administration actions in February alone, 160 resistance lawsuits winding their way through the system. And, it's that the left plans to use the courts. They really don't have much else to be able to use. I think two tactics. One, these leftist judges that are going to file suit against illegitimate actions of the White House. And also the terrorist actions, things like, bombing Teslas and Tesla dealerships and things like that. So that's where, we have to be kind of alert and aware. And the administration plans to go through the appeals process on these lawsuits and these decisions from judges. And it's going to be annoying, and it may take some time, but I hope it doesn't take too long, because the left is trying to stymie the president's agenda and his fulfilling of the campaign promises that he made to the American people when he was elected. And so, when he tries to send Venezuelan gang members back to Venezuela and a judge attempts to stop him, that's a problem. And that's why the Justice Department has to get involved.
Let me just mention, too, some of you like those numbers, and this particular article says well over 100 lawsuits, which is why I went to the one at Bloomberg where they actually went to the federal courts and counted up 150. So I think I can go to the mat on that number. Of course, the 15 injunctions Penna mentioned as well. But just a minute ago, some people had raised the question again, and I saw this at a press conference. Are we really sure that the individuals that were on that particular airplane going to El Salvador were actually those individuals? And they gave the rundown. 101 Venezuelans, which were part of the Tren de Aragua gang, 23 MS-13 Salvadorian gang members, and then 2 MS-13 ringleaders. So there are, again, some of those numbers, which I think are important because all they have to do is plant a seed of doubt. Well, do we really know all those gang members were really gang members? Well, if you saw the video, you probably came to that conclusion. But nevertheless, we knew there were going to be these legal challenges. And Penna, one of the things Kelly Shackelford said on Friday is these eventually, some of these will go to the Supreme Court. And I don't think he says some of these liberal groups understand that the court might then, given the court we have now, rule against some of these federal courts and maybe even give some of the constitutional ideas back. I'm holding up our booklet on constitutional interpretation, but just get your Constitution and recognize the power of the executive branch is what? Vested in the President of the United States. And going all the way back to 1974, Congress passed a particular law that limited the president. Almost every governor has a line item veto, all sorts of other things. And as a result, I do believe that before it's all through, some of these rulings might actually strengthen the office of the presidency. And I think that's kind of something that we need to be well aware of, as even though right now there seems to be some concerns about all this, it may end up giving a favorable ruling or two that might be very good for the future of this country and the presidency in this next administration.
Well, it certainly should do that. And, right now we have these district court judges issuing injunctions that, rightly or wrongly, they apply to the whole country. So they're trying to stop from a very low level of judges. They're trying to stop the actions of the administration. And as you just said, Trump is the leader of the administration. He's the one that's been given the power by the American people for the executive branch of government. The Supreme Court is another branch of government. So this is right now, sort of a winnowing or a clarifying of the separation of powers in our country. And I think you're absolutely right. Once many of these cases get to the Supreme Court, they will be correctly decided. Right now, there's a lot of rhetoric going back and forth. There's a lot of biased media coverage taking place. And, I will say with regard to the Venezuelan gang members sent to El Salvador, even if there were a few that are law-abiding that are within that, this is within the perfect right of the administrative branch to take care of deporting these people. If there's a risk, if they're the member of a group, maybe they're not bad actors right now, the president has the right to deport them, and he should be able to do so.
Just before I let you go, what would you say to our listeners? I know you have been a listener to Point of View even before you were on Point of View. You've been a supporter of Point of View, and of course, you've been a co-host of Point of View. What would you say to some of our listeners?
Yes, I've been all of the above. The listener part still goes on when I'm not there in the studio or speaking with you, speaking to our listeners, which I love doing. I'm listening and I'm keeping up with what comes out of our program. And I will tell you that I just contend that, there are many outlets, but I think you've still got Point of View, you've got radio, and you can use it as a podcast because you can listen anytime. And we have so much on our website to help people, give them the tools to really understand what is going on in our country and take action if they want to, or share it with others. And I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think this is an opportunity because we do have a favorable, sort of amenable administration, House and Senate, to make a huge difference for America and really everybody's lives. our lives are going to be different with more religious freedom.
Yes.
And with Christian Americans' values and biblical sensibilities being actually winning the day sometimes, which is just great.
Penna Dexter. Going to take a break, and this is a perfect time to call 1-800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. We'll be right back.
Point of View, keeping you anchored to truth.
My name is Vicki Garza. I've been listening to Point of View Radio since 1985, and this is my story. You really don't realize until later in life, when you have the benefit of hindsight, how the Lord used certain markers in your life to bring you to a new level. Point of View Radio was absolutely one of those markers in my life. At the end of 1985, for the first time, I became a listener of Christian radio. I happened to come across the show Point of View with Marlon Maddox, and all I could say is it changed my life. The Lord used this show in such a powerful way that to this day, it's still reaping benefits in my life. So if you're a listener, I encourage you to support this ministry, not only by listening, by telling others, and also by giving and sowing into this ministry. I heartily recommend Point of View Radio.
Point of View, anchored to truth.
Great story from Cindy Garza. And again, we are in the midst of the first day of Truth Team Week, and Collin Lambert in studio with me. We have some more gifts.
We just heard from James in South Carolina. He gave $80. Thank you, James. We appreciate that. And we got some more people on the line. Just call. We've got phone volunteers standing by. They're ready to talk to you. Again, we want to make it easy on you. You don't have to have the full amount today. If you'd like to give over 12 months, those monthly gifts are really helpful. And another thought again today, if you've never given before, especially for those of you who've maybe been listening for years and have never taken a moment to give, I want to encourage you to make this week's Truth Team Week the first week that you give. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Might just mention for those first-time givers, I think we have something that might be an encouragement to them, and that is the president of Point of View, Warren Kelly, has walked into the studio.
Thank you, Kerby. I appreciate you letting me come in and join you.
And again, I think you have some good news, don't you?
We have made some progress. We are up to about $6,000, so we're off and running toward our $150,000 total, but obviously have a good ways to go. And so we really do need to hear from you. This is that $150,000 goal, is very important for us to reach. We definitely do need to see those funds come in for the ministry to continue. And please know that your gifts, they make a real difference. They change lives. I've talked to so many people over the years that have been, impacted in so many different ways, but your gift will change lives. Your gift will impact communities. Your gifts will, we've talked about Kelly Shackelford and others that have started legal careers to defend religious liberties. We've had people that have run for public office, anywhere from school board or city council all the way up to and including some serious contenders for President of the United States. So your gifts make a difference in so many different ways, but we do need to hear from you. And as Collin said a minute ago, if you've been listening for a long time, or maybe even you've just been listening for a short time and you've never made a gift, let me encourage you to do so. And that is something that definitely happens. I've talked to a number of people who listen to the program for years, know that it made a huge impact in their lives, but for some reason they never chose to partner with us and give. And we do need to hear from you today.
Well, again, this is an investment, and I think, as you mentioned, people running for Congress, recently we had Michelle Bachmann and Ben Carson. Those are two presidential candidates at a dinner that we had. Of course, we had a dinner before that with Mike Huckabee. Used to listen to when he was a seminary student. So there's at least three presidential candidates, Collin Lambert, that actually, in one way or another, especially two of those, were actually listening to Point of View during their formative years.
Yeah, that's incredible. And the story is repeated over and over again by people in so many different walks of life who have started ministries, who have used their faith and their line of work, and just knowing how to engage the culture. Many have learned that from Point of View. Let me mention two other ways to give potentially for those of you who are currently monthly givers. If you are currently giving on a monthly basis, consider one of these possibilities. Upping your monthly gift. Maybe you've been giving $30 a month and you could give $40 a month in the coming year. The Lord's been good to you. You have that ability. Add a little bit to your monthly gift. Or maybe you're a monthly giver and you could just give a one-time gift specifically for this Truth Team Week. That would be much appreciated as well. But however you do it, we want to make it easy on you. Just call right now, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, or pointofview.net.
I just mentioned that even the piece that we talked about earlier with Robert Knight, he's talking about 677 different district judges canceling foreign policy of the President of the United States. Just think about that for just a minute. And sometimes, as we've pointed out, depending on which media outlet you hear, you are either aware of some of the things that are happening behind the scenes or not. But I thought I'd also call on you for just a minute, because you just came up here from Austin, and there's a Tesla dealership that has had some problems. And who would have predicted this, right?
I drive by it all the time, and I just read the news this morning that they found an incendiary device there, had to call in the bomb squad to remove it this morning, and it's just It blows my mind that this is going on and that it's being allowed to happen in many cases. Hopefully, Pam Bondi has started the process of beginning some prosecutions, and hopefully those will continue. But if there ever was a definition of domestic terrorism, this is it. It should be in that category, and hopefully we'll see something happen with that soon.
We'll see if some of those same judges rule on some of those issues, but we'll see how that goes, because that is the case. Warren Kelly, just let me come to you real quickly, because people might say, well, what are we investing in? Well, the people and the electronics and all the other things, the lease, and we certainly are encouraging some people that have never given before to consider giving on this particular occasion.
Yes, and we definitely need to hear from you. We do have a lot of obligations the responsibilities that we have to meet in order to continue to bring the program to you and to people across the nation. And so your gift today will help continue the ministry, and it will impact the lives of people in every state in the country and all around the world.
So again, we'll come back and get into some other aspects of that. Doge is one of those, and certainly the 2 Ds, deportation, Doge. We have only covered a little of that. There's a lot more to cover, and in particular, a very good piece that we'll get to next hour by Miranda Devine, how one judge is really setting up an impeachment trap, another way to actually impeach the President of the United States, and so that would certainly be the case.
I almost forgot. I don't know how I did this.
Well, I was setting you up for that, but I knew we'd get to it eventually.
We do have a matching challenge that one of our listeners has given us $2,200, and this is for today. So if you want to have your gift matched, now would be a great time to do that. Anything you give up to $2,200 will be matched dollar for dollar today.
I'm glad he waited to the last moment, because we're going to a break, and this is an extended one. So a lot of people that don't want to miss all the great content, good or bad, will be able to call during the break. And so now we have, Collin, a dollar-for-dollar match on the table up to what, $2,200?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, no better time than now to give, and especially if you're one of those first-time givers, it's a wonderful time to call and give as well, because you can have your very first gift doubled, a monthly gift, so we can double those. And right now, though, is the key. Right now, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, pointofview.net. We'd love to hear from you. I did just get a gift in from Pauline in South Carolina, $20. That's doubled to $40 right now, Pauline, so thank you for your gift.
Well, and again, if you were thinking of being one of those individuals that wanted to make a larger gift, because we, again, at $50 a month have the Point of View coaster set, $100 a month, of course, the Igloo snap-down cooler, all sorts of great resources. Again, you can go to the website, pointofview.net, click on that banner that says Anchor to Truth. You can see what those are, and you can give there as well. But a perfect time to make that phone call, 1-800-347-5151. Every dollar doubled. So again, love to hear from you. 800-347-5151. We'll be right back.
Please do not miss this opportunity to make a difference in America. Join the Truth Team today. This week, our goal is to raise $150,000, something we've never done during Truth Team Week before. Our goal is ambitious because the need for biblical truth in this nation is dire. Few people have a biblical worldview anymore, but you can help change that by helping bring biblical truth to this nation. One of the best ways to support Point of View is by joining the team of supporters from around the nation who give monthly to keep truth on the air. Please, do not wait. Join the Truth Team today so we can restore a biblical worldview in America together. You can join now online at pointofview.net or call us at 1-800-347-5151. A small investment makes a big difference. Pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this.
I do appreciate Point of View and what you folks are doing. You really are doing a great job to educate and to help Christian folks do a better job to honor Christ in all that we do.
My husband and I are your supporters. We just really appreciate the show and the people you bring on.
I just want to commend you guys on your program. I love listening to you.
It's a blessing. Been listening to you for several years. Your program has helped my family see current events and elections and politics through the eyes and the principles of Scripture. And that's been enlightening, and we're trying to pass that on to others.
I want to say, first of all, that I really enjoyed the Millennial Roundtable, and I love the program altogether. I think Kerby is great, and I really appreciate all of y'all, all that y'all do, and the truth that y'all put out.
Hey, great show. Love all your comments and what you're talking about.
Thanks again for what you do.
Point of View Radio Talk Show.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging: apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View continues right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Second hour today, and let's, if we can, for just a minute, get into the commentary today, and that has to do with the issue of debt. Might again hold up our booklet on debt, and the debt for the United States is $36 trillion. Now, the problem with that is people don't really understand what that really entails. You know, you hear a trillion, a billion, a million, whatever. Let's just say you make $36,000 a year, and you set all that money aside every year. How many years would it take you to get $36 trillion? Well, that would be, I think, 1 billion years, which gives you an idea of the level. But you say, okay, but I don't, you know, there are other people that make a lot more money. Okay, let's take the individual that is the highest paid athlete in the NBA. That's Steph Curry. He makes $55 million a year. Now, again, you can start doing the math and recognizing 55 million. Well, still, you would need maybe not exactly all of the individuals that were about 100,000 and something of that nature, but you would need quite a bit. Probably the better one to say is Elon Musk. Richest man in the world, okay, $320 billion. Well, that's quite a bit. If you had 10 Elon Musks in the world, that would be $3.2 trillion. And that's not enough. So you'd need 100, and that's not enough, because then that'd be 32 trillion. So you need really 116 of the richest men in the world to equal what our debt is. The reason I bring this up is simply this. One of the big pushes right now has to do with the fact that there is a great pushback over the issue of Doge. And you may not like all the various ways in which their various agencies are cutting back. But one of the things that I think we need to say on this program is that some of that is intentional. This morning, my wife and I were out doing a walk, and we ran into somebody who had just come back from a national park, and she was complaining about the fact that there weren't as many rangers out there cleaning the toilets and things like that. And I've heard some saying there haven't been as many people collecting the garbage. Well, we've talked about this on Point of View before. Remember when they last time had a government shutdown, the attempt has always been from the bureaucracy, which brings me up to my booklet on the deep state, to try to make any kind of cutback or even any kind of stoppage of the federal government the most inconvenient. So all of a sudden, there aren't park rangers to give tours. All of a sudden, they were trying to cordon off the World War II memorial right there on the mall, which you don't need anybody to let you in and out. As a matter of fact, they even blocked off Old Faithful, the geyser. I'm not making this up, in Yellowstone Park. And so right now, you're going to hear some stories about how these cuts have been so difficult. And of course, these are done intentionally. And I think it's about time for us to have a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of common sense, because if you want to look at $36 trillion, that's roughly the value of the economies of China, Germany, Japan, India, and the United Kingdom. We're spending nearly $3 billion a day on interest payments on the debt. And it is, I think, really important for people to understand the level of our indebtedness. You can't solve a problem if you don't admit it's a problem. This has been the first administration that said we're going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, and actually started cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. What a surprise. And so as you read my piece today about debt and maybe ways to solve them, and I think there are some very good thought out ways to deal with this debt problem so we don't put it on our children and grandchildren, recognize we've been talking about this for some time on Point of View. Tonight, when you turn on the TV set, or today when you go out on the internet and you watch or look at various programs or read different articles, see how many people try to help you understand the level of our indebtedness and the need for us to try to get to a point where someday we might actually have a balanced budget. But here at Point of View, we have a balanced budget like any budget that you have to have. Any family has to have a balanced budget. Every state has to have a balanced budget. And we depend upon you for our finances to continue bringing this program to you.
It's listener-supported radio, and you make it possible. And we're so grateful for those of you already today who have started giving. It's Truth Team Week. Anchored to Truth is our theme, and that's really what you find on Point of View every single day. A couple of gifts that, let me remind you, we have a dollar-for-dollar match on the board right now. $2,200 dollar-for-dollar match on the board. So far, $520 in, so $1,680 remaining in the dollar-for-dollar match. Imogene got in on it with a $200 gift. That becomes $400, Imogene. Thank you for that gift. Patricia in Georgia signed up at $25 a month. That's a $300 gift, which Patricia becomes $600. What a great way to participate. So right now, again, a dollar-for-dollar match on the board, $1,680, and your gift right now is doubled at 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. Quick reminder, everybody who gives a gift of any amount, we've got a wonderful bookmark for you, Anchored to Truth. You can use that. If you're giving at the $30 a month or more level, we've got some of the wonderful Point of View monthly booklets along with the Outlook magazine. We've got a coaster set for you at $50 a month or more you can add in, and then you can add a wonderful Igloo Seadrift snap-down cooler for a gift of $100 or more per month. All of those available to you today, and again, you can spread it out over those months and make it a bit easier. 800-347-5151.
Might just mention in just a few minutes, we're going to hear from Janna Weidler, who's the Vice President of Stewardship. Looking forward to that as well. You know, when we talk about debt, we always talk about a biblical point of view. How about Proverbs 22:7? The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a servant to the lender. And it does seem to me that we have not been a good steward of the resources as a country. In my booklet on debt, which we'd be glad to give you a copy of, we talk about some of the consequences of debt, and we remind you that not only is the government in debt, but lots of Americans are as well. And there is, I think, obviously going to be a pushback. I mentioned this idea of the deep state. As a matter of fact, in the deep state, I even mentioned this book I'm holding up right now called American Leviathan by Ned Ryan. And it's just understandable that you're going to have pushback. You're going to have all sorts of difficulties that I think are really intended so that you will go and protest to your member of Congress. So those are the kinds of things we like to talk about here on Point of View. But as we go to a break, this is a perfect time to make a phone call before we get to our next guest. And again, that number, as we've given it to you a couple times before, is 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. As we go to a break, again, we also show you some of the great resources we make available to you at different levels, whether it is the coaster set or even the Igloo cooler or a variety of other things. Those are all resources where we can say thank you.
Take advantage of them while you can. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
We'll take a break and come back with more right after this.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
The U.S. has two debt problems, one long-term and one short-term. The first problem is a national debt of $36 trillion that has been increasing. Also concerning is the fact that the rate of indebtedness is also increasing. The second problem is the current need to refinance so many federal treasuries this year. These T-bills are how we finance our debt. And $7 trillion of debt needs to be financed, along with $2 trillion in a deficit this year. That means $9 trillion of current debt needs to be purchased. Who's going to buy our debt? Not China, probably not Japan or any country in Europe. We need something to entice countries and companies to buy our debt. Bitcoin might be the answer. At the Bitcoin Policy Institute, Michael Saylor ran models to show how investing in the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve would build assets to offset the growing national debt. I mentioned that in a previous commentary. But another presentation proposed a Bitcoin bond that would increase an investor's interest in buying bonds. Most of the purchase would go to the government, but a portion of the purchase would go to buy Bitcoin. At maturity, the holder would receive all of the upside price appreciation of Bitcoin to a certain level. After that, the additional appreciation would be split by half with the government. The benefit to the holder would be an investment that is likely going to return a better percentage than normal. The benefit to the government would be the purchasing of Bitcoin for the strategic reserve that is budget neutral, as required by the executive order signed by President Trump earlier this month. Bitcoin might be a way to pay off our national debt in the future, but also attract needed investors to finance our debt today. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
Go deeper on topics like you just heard by visiting pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Point of View, keeping you anchored to truth.
I think it's essential that we support Christian voices, faithful voices like Point of View, like yours, because we need them. We really need them in an era where, like, the landscape is so crowded with voices of bad faith, frankly, people who are trying to hijack our faith for partisan ends and other, I think, on other ends other than the gospel, both on the left and the right. And so what I so value, Kerby, about your voice is that you are really looking out for the best interests of your listeners from the vantage point of true fidelity to Jesus. And we really need more of those voices. And so I really want to encourage anybody that's listening to support this. This is out of all of the various places that I do conversations and radio interviews and so forth. Kerby, honestly, I'm not saying this just because you're in the middle of trying to build your truth team, but yours is always one of my favorites because you do the research, you're always prepared, and the conversations are really productive and fruitful. And that's rare in today's media environment. And so I really do want to encourage listeners to please strengthen the ecosystem of good, truthful, responsible voices. We need them. If you're a regular listener to Kerby, please support that work because that's the only way that we get the right voices out there.
Point of View, anchored to truth.
Curtis Chang, who's on with us a while back and said some very nice things. I might encourage you to get his podcast as well. And we have a match on the table.
We do, a $2,200 dollar-for-dollar match, and I'm reading that we now have $1,720 in already, and so $480 left to be matched dollar for dollar. Maybe you could give $1 a day. That's like a $365 gift, or $30 a month. However you'd like to do that. We have $480 remaining on this dollar-for-dollar match. I love one of the things that he just said as he was talking about what you do here daily. Not only is there news that you hear no one else. We were talking earlier, Kerby, I think since Trump has been reelected, and this was kind of a surprise to me, I think since Trump was reelected, we're seeing more disinformation, more misinformation, more fake news than maybe we were seeing before, because so many are throwing so much out, just seeing what will stick. And not all of it's sticking, but as followers of Christ, we need to know what's true, and then we need to know what the Bible says about it, and that's something you do every day.
Well, again, that's why we say one of our key words is discernment, because I've mentioned the deep state. We haven't even mentioned fake news and a variety of other topics. I will get to that before the end of today, if we can, because we've got some other great material there. But we thought about now it would be great to hear from our good friend, Vice President of Stewardship, Janna Weidler. And Janna, thank you for joining us today here on Point of View.
Well, hello, Kerby and Collin. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, I just a minute ago talked about the Point of View website. Can you speak to that? Because that's something that we encourage people to navigate.
Absolutely. We're encouraging people to call in. But if you're in a position right now, maybe you're at work or you're in your car and you want to give, just go to our website, pointofview.net. And this is such an easy website to navigate. I tell you, if you have a few minutes and can explore more than just the giving button, we have interviews from people that you know and that you trust. For example, Max Lucado, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Lee Strobel, June Hunt. She was in the studio a few months ago, and I got to meet her personally. So there are just so many different interviews. All you have to do is navigate through that website, like I said, and do a search. And any interviews that were done with anybody in particular, you'll be able to find them very easily and listen at your own pace on your own time.
I just mentioned, too, you and I were both in Macon, Georgia. I think our first gift came from Macon, Georgia, didn't it?
It did, yep.
And you oftentimes, when we're out speaking to our donors, say that we really exist to try to serve the listeners and to really help them get the information they're looking for.
You are that was spot on, Kerby. We do exist to serve you. When we talk to different people and they talk about the booklets and the Outlook magazine and the information that they're able to get, we don't just collect funds to do things outside of Point of View. I truly believe that there are a lot of ministries out there that are very worthy, that are doing things outside the United States for people in need, example, building wells and stuff for people that don't have running water. All of that is very important. But we need to be making sure that our nation is anchored to truth, that people have a biblical view, that they're getting the truth. There are so many voices out there, like Collin was just saying, that are spreading misinformation. But with Point of View, you have voices you can trust. And we are very, very proud of that.
Let's again hear from one of our listeners.
Point of View, keeping you anchored to truth.
But it is by far the most correct, factual, Christian-based program. I think Kerby is one of the best, if not the best, interviewer. The guests you have are excellent. They're articulate, and he is a great listener to those people that he talks to on the phone, whether it's a listener or whether it's a guest. So I appreciate that very much about him. You have a good staff as well. I wish that everybody would contribute. We desperately need his voice. There's so few out there.
I don't get to listen to it every day, but when I do get to listen to it, when I'm driving and stuff, it's very, very educational. I mean, I've learned a lot this program, and I've learned a lot on Friday's Roundtable. I mean, I've just learned a lot. And it's just, I'm so grateful for it because it's just, I'm upping it because there isn't enough out there for us people that, I don't know. There's just so much information out there that you guys have given. The little booklets, I don't read them all when I get them, but I do have them and read which ones are, I don't know. I enjoy Kerby so well. He's a very good pronouncer.
Point of View, anchored to truth.
Jen, let me come back to you because the theme is anchored to truth, and you talk so often about how we don't just see you as donors, we see you as partners. Can you speak to that?
I will, Kerby. I'd be happy to. We travel all over the U.S. and we get to meet our partners, and we tend to call them partners because we truly believe that the only reason we're able to continue doing this is because we have partners. And it's also it's such a big blessing for us to be encouraged by people, our faithful partners that have been, in our lives for years. But I wanted to just remind people that we don't just exist to do this, to provide you with biblical views and truth. We truly believe this is a family. We pray with our partners, we visit with our partners, we get to know them, their needs, and it helps us serve you guys better.
And again, one of the things I've always appreciated about you is you give people your actual number, and it's not like it goes to a secretary or something. It goes directly to you, and you're so involved in praying for those individuals as well. And Collin, that's why we call it a partnership and a ministry.
It is, and it's much needed. Again, this is a listener-supported radio program, and if you're wanting to continue to receive accurate news, trustworthy information, news you can't hear anywhere else, and the litany of resources online that they were just talking about, that is made possible by people like you. If you've never given before, it's a great first opportunity to give, because right now we've still got a portion of that $2,200 dollar-for-dollar match on the board. $440 now remaining. I'm sorry, just jumped to $340 remaining as a gift came in. $340 remaining dollar-for-dollar match up to that $340 right now at 800-347-5151 or on pointofview.net.
Janna, we have less than a minute. Anything you'd like to say to our donors before we let you go?
Yes, please. I watch and listen on Facebook. We don't get a very good signal out here in Colorado Springs, but I am also part of the Truth Team. And I want everybody listening right now, if you have not given before, please do so now. Listen to that voice in your heart, in your head, saying that this is something that you need to support. We've been on the air for 52 years. We couldn't do it without our former partners, and we can't do it without you.
We're going to take a break, but let's see if we can encourage you to finish off the match. That can be done, especially since we're going to a break. So again, that number is 800-347-5151. Of course, you can also go to that website that Janna mentioned a minute ago, Anchored to Truth, and you will get all the information necessary. When we come back, though, again, a very interesting article that came out about maybe even setting up the possibility of future impeachment against the president, and some reaction from the deep state. So we'll get into that in some details. But before we do so, we have a break. This is the perfect time to call 800-347-5151. Of course, the website is pointofview.net. Still have a dollar-for-dollar match on the table, and we would love to hear from you. We'll see you on the other side.
Please do not miss this opportunity to make a difference in America. Join the Truth Team today. This week, our goal is to raise $150,000, something we've never done during Truth Team Week before. Our goal is ambitious because the need for biblical truth in this nation is dire. Few people have a biblical worldview anymore, but you can help change that by helping bring biblical truth to this nation. One of the best ways to support Point of View is by joining the team of supporters from around the nation who give monthly to keep truth on the air. Please, do not wait. Join the Truth Team today so we can restore a biblical worldview in America together. You can join now online at pointofview.net. or call us at 1-800-347-5151. 5151. A small investment makes a big difference. Pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this. You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again, is Kerby Anderson.
Back once again in studio with me, Collin Lambert, and we've kept Janna Weidler on the phone. We'll get to her in just a minute. Let me just, as a program note, mention that tomorrow Walker Wildman will be with us in the first hour. He, of course, has his own radio program on American Family Radio, and very gifted. By the way, in just a few minutes, as we return from one of our breaks, we'll hear from Tim Wildman. And then we also have Jerry Newcomb in the second hour, of course, with Coral Ridge and Truths That Transform. All through the week, we'll have different guests that you'll have a chance to hear from. And Collin, I want to hear from you for just a minute because we still have the match on the table.
We do, just barely. I wanted to thank Loretta from Missouri, a $50 gift. That's doubled to $100. Ann in Georgia, your $20 gift became $40. Lucille in Illinois gave a monthly gift of $20 a month, which is $240, which becomes $480 as it's doubled. So thank you for that. Here's where we are on the match. We had a $2,200 dollar-for-dollar match on the board. Kerby, $30 left. Just $30 left.
So put us over.
If you could give a $30 or more gift right now, you could be matched up to that $30. But let's not leave any of that money on the table. Let's make sure that these folks who have given faithfully to encourage others to give, that their wish is met there. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. It also counts if you go through online at pointofview.net.
And just a minute ago, Janna talks about watching it on Facebook, or sometimes people watch it on their computer in terms of our feed. If you look at that, you can see we have a QR code. We have, of course, we're high tech now, aren't we? As well as the 800 number and the website and a number of others. But Janna, back by popular demand, we had a couple of other things we thought we might talk to you about. And one of those is you have had an opportunity, because you live in Colorado Springs, to see these huge ministries with these massive parking lots. Then you've had a chance to come down here to Point of View and see we are able to do a lot with a little, wouldn't you say?
I would say that. As a matter of fact, being right down the road from Focus on the Family and Campus Crusade, et cetera, I mean, we have so many ministries here in Colorado Springs, and they have these huge buildings and huge parking lots. And I think about how much we get done with just a small amount. I mean, we were talking about not meeting our budget. We personally have to have a budget for our own homes, and we at Point of View are no different. We have a very small budget. We have a staff of 10 people, 2 of which are part-time. We have volunteers that come in and answer the phone, and we are so grateful for them. They are a part of our family as well. But we have like I said, a very small budget, and this is including the engineering and producing and the running of the social media, the mailing of the print materials, and there's just a lot of stuff that gets done with this small staff, and they are all dedicated, and we are conscious of using discernment on how best to use the gifts that you bless us with. And when you do give, just know that we are stretching each and every gift as far as we can.
Might just mention also that Collin, and I might involve Janna as well, we're going to be with a couple radio stations, and we've already, of course, been talking about the upcoming event with WPEO. We have an upcoming event with KYCC, and we really could not do this program if it weren't for the radio stations, but we also could not do what we do here on Point of View without the individual listeners who support the ministry.
Absolutely. Every radio station is critical because they're the platform where you hear this program, and we want you, if you have a local Christian station that's a not-for-profit, a non-com station, we want you to be supporting them so that that platform is there. We also would ask that you take the opportunity to support a program like Point of View. Let me give you a scriptural perspective real quick, if I could. Galatians 6:6 says this: "The one who is taught the word is to share all good things with the one who teaches him." Let me say that again. The one who's taught the word is to share all good things with the one who teaches him. The point is that if one person is benefiting spiritually from any teacher, whether it's a pastor or a Sunday school teacher, an author, or even a radio host like the one and only Kerby Anderson, you're being blessed by these ministries. Paul talks about blessing those ministries back. So it's a very simple equation. if you've been blessed, are you blessing the ministry that's blessed you? It's biblical. In addition to helping us with the cost and all that goes into Point of View, it's a biblical reason to give to a ministry that benefits you. Give back to them. And this is one of the couple of times a year we come to you and ask you. It's called Truth Team Week. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151.
Since you gave a Bible verse, I'll pull this one out of our booklet on money. Again, we are told in Proverbs 3 to honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your harvest. Then your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will overflow with new wine. We encourage you to support your local church. We certainly would encourage you to support the radio station that you're listening to right now. But most importantly, we hope that you might think about what you might do to support this ministry. And Janna, I'd like to get your thoughts, because in some respects we have individuals who have come to us face to face, or certainly have called you on the phone that said, I could not survive without listening to Point of View. I so value what you do. And you've heard from a number of people that have deeply appreciate Point of View and have actually stepped up to be a supporter and actually joined the Truth Team.
We have wonderful partners. And just to let you know, not only do I, like I said before, I'm also a Truth Team member, but I listen to you every day. I usually don't make phone calls during that time, but I do write thank you notes. And I get so much out of listening and being able to talk to our partners when they discuss different people that you have had on. I get to make a phone call and find out what their perspective is and how they've been touched and informed by Point of View. So I don't know how to ask more clearly for you to support Point of View, but then just to be bold and say, if you want us to continue to be on the radio, we need you right now. And you may think that your gift is small, but God multiplies. So whatever you can give right now, please call in. Again, we have volunteers answering the phones. And if it is not convenient, please log on to pointofview.net and give online.
And the phone number again is 800-347-5151. Still $30 left in this dollar-for-dollar match. Someone needs to grab that, and it'll double your gift. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net.
I was looking at one of the volunteers there because we can see through the glass, and the moment she's reading one of the booklets, which I highly recommend, by the way, but I'm sure she'll be glad to set the booklet down to take your phone call. But it has been amazing to me, Collin, that just the other day we had a guest in here, and I've interviewed her since her whole outreach began in China, and now talking about privacy and all the rest. She saw some of these booklets, and she was literally wanting to take every one that she could grab and know how she could get more of those, because as a lawyer, she says, you know, what I end up writing are these 20-page treatises and everything, but I know nobody reads them, so I've learned to eventually try to put them into maybe a one-page or something of that nature. And yet, again, sometimes they won't read that. But these booklets, I think they would read these. And Janna, you've said that in some respects, this is an attempt to take, what did you call it, a tsunami of information and put it in a teacup?
Yes. When you're just overwhelmed with so much information, Kerby, you have an amazing skill. And so does Liberty and Steve and several people on our staff, just to take a tsunami of information and pare it down to just a teacup that you are easily able to consume and get that biblical view that is going to keep you anchored to truth.
Well, again, one of the benefits of joining the Truth Team, $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 a year. You give the whole $360 and would qualify, or you could just simply say, no, I'll give $1 a day, $30 a month, and you'll receive these booklets. And I'm holding up all sorts of samples here for people watching right now. And it does seem to me that that is a resource that is valuable enough just to join at that level.
It's a great resource, and I love these, love reading through them. And again, you have them on every important topic that we need to know about. So $30 a month or more, you get the Outlook magazine and these monthly booklets. Go up to $50 a month. We'll also throw in the wood Point of View coaster set. That's brand new. And for $100 or more a month, a gift of $1,200 for the year, a Point of View Igloo Seadrift snap down cooler. It holds 36 cans, believe it or not, and it's great to tote around with you wherever you need to go. I encourage you to call right now, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151.
Janna, thank you for being with us. And again, if people have other questions, of course, you are available. Matter of fact, occasionally you may be answering the phone. I know later in the week, my wife and my daughter will be answering the phone. We have volunteers answering the phone. And when we come back, I do promise I want to get to this last article because Miranda Devine has kind of broken a code, which I had never really understood before about what's going on. But as we go to a break, perfect time to call 800-347-5151. Or, of course, you can go to the website pointofview.net. We'll be right back.
Point of View, keeping you anchored to truth.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio, and we air Point of View on AFR, American Family Radio. Folks, Kerby Anderson and the team there deserve your financial support during this time. They don't ask a lot, but when they do ask, they need your financial support to make the ministry whole, to keep promoting the gospel and the truth about what's going on in our country. We consider them kindred spirits and partner in ministry at Point of View with us here at American Family Radio. So if you would, write them a check, give them a donation with your credit card, whatever you can do to help them keep the cause of Christ before the public on their radio program, Point of View.
Point of View, anchored to truth.
Collin, we have also mentioned on Anchor to Truth here, it says a goal of $150,000 goal. That's larger than we've ever had before, and it really is kind of a stretch or faith pledge that we are making ourselves, and we're encouraging people to make a faith pledge as well.
We are, and you can do that as a one-time gift. You can do that as a monthly gift, whatever works best for you. I did want to let you know that we met that $2,200 dollar-for-dollar match. In fact, $2,675 came in during that time, so we're grateful for that. Let me also tell you, we're only about $1,100 away from $10,000, so we would love to see maybe somebody could give one of those $100 a month gifts. Maybe a couple of people could give $50 a month, or maybe 3 or 4 people give at that $30 a month or more basis. Those are great giving levels, and it's a wonderful way to get involved. Monthly gift, one-time gift, upping your monthly gift or giving a one-time gift in addition to your monthly gift, all of those would be super helpful right now. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, or pointofview.net.
You know, one of the things Collin and I do is read a lot of articles so you don't have to read them. And a lot of people have been quoting this article, so I take you back to the original by Miranda Devine. She said, if you've ever doubted that Washington's cartel of law firms, judges, NGOs, deep state bureaucrats is a machine designed to thwart the Trump administration, just watch as judge after judge blocks the president's ability to keep his campaign promises. We've already talked about that. Probably will go to the Supreme Court and the rest. And she points out that they're really depending on the federal courts, especially the Democrats, since they don't have the House, the Senate, or even the White House. And so these 600 plus federal judges are doing that. But what, again, they have some numbers, according to the Attorney General. Now, I guess we're up to 160 of these lawsuits, 15 injunctions. But she points out that one of the things that was very interesting about this was that you may remember that we talked about one of the judges, Judge James Boasberg, who actually told the individuals that were flying, these individuals that were either Venezuelan or El Salvadorian, MS-13 or other groups, to turn the plane around, and now have required and asked the White House to provide minute details of that decision. And she makes the case that really what that is doing is setting up the possibility of a future impeachment. And that's why a lot of people have been quoting that. Now, I'll be the first to admit that when President Trump invoked what was called the Alien Enemies Act, which really came down in the 18th century, a lot of people said, what about that? But even in the midst of this, also points out that Stephen Miller says, you know, the judge, by requiring the plane to turn around, actually put people at risk. And I'd never thought about that. He said, did he know how much fuel was on the plane? Did he know the flight conditions? Did he know the weather conditions? Did he know how many crew hours? Because, you know, crews can only work so many hours, and goes into this in some detail. So nevertheless, this is a reminder that not only are we seeing just an increased number of lawsuits and injunctions, unprecedented in the history of the modern day presidency, we're also seeing that even the requirement from this federal judge could be used ultimately to hold members of the administration in contempt and serve as a basis for a future impeachment of Trump. So that is our fourth article, and I would encourage you to read that. I'm only summarizing the first 2 of 3 pages briefly because it is the particular article that other people are quoting. So I take you back to that original article to realize there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that I don't think you're ever going to hear if you go maybe to a lot of the legacy media or even some of the conservative media, unless they are quoting from this particular article.
The tools and resources that you find from Point of View are immense, and they're there every single day for you. Things that are happening in the news that you may not have read about. Maybe you hear Kerby talking about something and you want to read the whole article for yourself. It is all there each and every day for you, and your gifts help make that possible. We're down to about $1,000 to hit at least $10,000 today. Could you help us here in the final moments of this first day of Truth Team Week. There's only 5 days, and this is the first one, and it's almost over. 800-347-5151. A monthly gift, a one-time gift, maybe raise a monthly gift or add a one-time gift to your current giving. We've got the Anchored to Truth, Point of View, Truth Team bookmark for you. If you give a gift of any amount, it's just a way of saying thank you. If you give at the $30 a month or more level, we've got the Outlook magazine along with the monthly topic booklets that he's been talking about, the coaster set at $50 a month or more, the Igloo ice cooler at $100 a month or more. So many opportunities for you to give, and it's desperately needed at this time of the year. We come to you only a couple of times of the year like this, and Truth Team Week is it. Be a partner in Truth Team Week. Be a member of the team. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, or pointofview.net.
By the way, we did have a chance to hear just a minute ago from Tim Wildman, and so I'd love to hear from some of the listeners that listen to us on American Family Radio. Tomorrow we're going to have Walker Wildman, so if you are an AFR listener, I hope that we can hear from you. But we started the day, Collin, with the request that some of the listeners who have never given before might make their first gift today, and I hope that we'll hear from some of those individuals.
I do too. We've got phone volunteers, as I mentioned, that are answering your phone calls. Be sure to tell them when you call that you've never given before. This is your first gift ever, and whether you've only been listening a short amount of time or you've been listening for decades, now is a great time to start giving your first gift, and it's needed. 800-347-5151. One
things I like is your gift of any size, you'll at least get the bookmark.
Right.
And so some people say, well, I only can give a small gift. And I know sometimes my wife is on the phone. They say, well, I apologize. I can only give that. Any gift, you're going to get at least the bookmark. But again, if you can give on monthly, you'll receive the Outlook magazine. If you can give $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 a year, you get the booklets. And then, of course, as you've pointed out, everything from the coaster set to the cooler, all sorts of resources at any level.
Just got another jump in the number. We're up to $9,665. We're a little over $300 away from that $10,000 mark. Help us hit it today, will you? 800-347-5151.
We'll get into some of those issues tomorrow with our good friend Walker Wildman and also Jerry Newcomb. We'll look at some of the news issues with Walker. We'll look at America's godly heritage with Jerry Newcomb, and I think you will appreciate that. And that just, I think, helps you understand the breadth and hopefully the depth of the kinds of things we get into. But as we go off the air, let me mention that we'll still answer those phones. So we're looking for a few more phone calls. Matter of fact, and we get maybe 5 more phone calls even as we go off the air. And I know that will put us over the top, and we'll be excited about that.
Let's do it right now. Pointofview.net or 800-347-5151. Be a part of Truth Team Week.
I want to thank Megan for help engineering the program. Steve, thank you for producing the program. Collin, thank you for sitting across from me. We look forward to hearing from you tomorrow. Give us a call, 800-347-5151.
Please do not miss this opportunity to make a difference in America. Join the Truth Team today. This week, our goal is to raise $150,000, something we've never done during Truth Team Week before. Our goal is ambitious because the need for biblical truth in this nation is dire. Few people have a biblical worldview anymore, but you can help change that by helping bring biblical truth to this nation. One of the best ways to support Point of View is by joining the team of supporters from around the nation who give monthly to keep truth on the air. Please, do not wait. Join the Truth Team today so we can restore a biblical worldview in America together. You can join now online at pointofview.net or call us at 1-800-347-5151. A small investment makes a big difference. Pointofview.net and 800-347-5151. Point of View is produced by Point of View Ministries.